Clone fragrances, some people love them, some people hate them. I tend to, be on the more positive side when it comes to how I feel about clones, especially as long as they're, sort of well done and really close to the original. I tend to enjoy clones. And in some cases, you may have clones that sort of have their own twist on them that actually make them a little bit more enjoyable than what the original fragrances are. So on this list that I have here for you today, I have 33 different fragrances that I picked up over the last year that, at least in my opinion, are really solid pickups. All right, so definitely, if you're interested, stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. It's Jamar from Vegas Scents. And to anyone that's brand new to my channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. And to anyone watching, go ahead and leave a like and a comment on the video. All right. So just to make sure that this video is not too long, I'm going to get straight into it. Just kind of give a really sort of quick overview of these fragrances. All right. So the first fragrance on the list is going to be Tobacco Myth. This is the clone of Carolina Herrera's Mystery Tobacco. I would say this is about a 90% close clone to the original. Has extremely high blend quality, I would say, for a clone. And you can pick this one up on Bandit Air Fragrance for about $39.90, I believe. All right. So again, this is Tobacco Myth by Fragrance World. Next fragrance is going to also be from Fragrance World. This is also a Carolina Herrera clone. This is Absolute Gold. This is the Goldmer Absolute clone from Fragrance World. This is, I would say, about 95% close to the original. I picked this one up on Frag Bar for, I believe, about $45. And with the original being a discontinued fragrance, I would say this is probably going to be your best choice, for that scent profile. So again, this is Absolute Gold from Fragrance World. Also from Fragrance World, I have here Hartnell. So this is their take on Parfums de Marly's Hautaine. And I would say this is about 90 or so percent close to Hautaine, but I do actually prefer the way that this smells. It has more of an emphasis on saffron, in my opinion. And it is slightly less herbal than what the Parfums de Marly is. Also, I would say the praline note in this one is a little bit more present and slightly sweeter. So again, this is going to be Hartnell from Fragrance World. So if you're a fan of Tom Ford's Oud Wood, then I would definitely recommend picking up Oud Wonder. This is, I would say, about 90% close to Tom Ford's Oud Wood. Just in the opening, I would say this has a slightly heavier emphasis on the note of cardamom. But I do actually like that about this particular fragrance. Performance on this is pretty solid as well, about 7 hours or so on skin. So definitely, if you're looking for a much cheaper alternative to Tom Ford's Oud Wood, then definitely check out Oud Wonder from Fragrance World. Next up is from the house of Lattafa. If you are a fan of Mancera's Instant Crush, then definitely go ahead and pick this one up. This is going to be Lattafa's Afkaar. This has, I would say, even slightly heavier projection than what the Mancera does. Also, in the opening of this fragrance, you get a slightly heavier emphasis on mandarin orange, which gives it a slight sort of extra fruitiness to the fragrance. I absolutely love this one and actually prefer it over the original. Again, this one is going to be Afkaar from Lattafa. With all of the Angel Shears clones that are out there from all kinds of different companies, I would say the best one that I've smelled so far that comes the closest to the original Angel Shear without any sort of extra twist to it, it's going to be Brooklyn Fragrance Lover from Alexandria Fragrances. All right. So this, to me, it gives you about, I would say, 90 to 95% close of an experience to, By Kilian's Angel Shear. The performance on this is also pretty good as well. I would say it's not as loud as what Angel Shear is. It's almost there, but not as loud. But the longevity on this is very good. I would say I get 12 plus hours on this easily. And it smells amazing, extremely close to Angel Shear. Again, this is Brooklyn Fragrance Lover by Alexandria Fragrances. Next one is from the house of Fragrance World again, and this is going to be Posh Sirius. This is their take on Parfums de Marly Setley. Yep, yeah, Parfums de Marly Setley. This is, I would say, at least about 90 to 95% close. The only main difference that I really pick up on with this fragrance is in the opening. I would say you get a little bit more emphasis on the mint and the lavender with this one, but for the most part, it's pretty much just the same scent, just sort of amped up. So I definitely get a lot better performance out of this one than the original from Parfums de Marly. So again, check this one out. This is going to be Posh Sirius by Fragrance World. Next up is going to be from F.A. Paris Fragrance World, and this is their take on Bulgari's Tiger. This is Vie Ciel from Fragrance World, and this is a very good clone, in my opinion, of Bulgari's Tiger. You get that sort of dry woods with ambroxan and grapefruit within this particular fragrance. And I would say this is at least about 90 to 95% close to Bulgari's Tiger. I would say that the ambroxan is, I would say, a little bit, amped up, I would say, within the original fragrance. So it is definitely, better done in that one. But I mean, this, for the most part, I think you can now probably pick this one up for about $30 to $40 or so. So this is absolutely worth it if you like Bulgari's Tiger, and the performance on this is also pretty good as well. So again, check this one out. This is Vie Ciel from F.A. Paris Fragrance World. Next up, in my opinion, is going to be the best YSL Tuxedo clone. This is from the House of Fragrance World. This is Fragrance World Suits. And this is in the mid and the dry down. I would say it's going to be pretty much identical to YSL Tuxedo. It is slightly different in the opening. It's not as spicy and peppery as what Tuxedo is in the opening. But pretty much after that, you get the exact same experience. I would even say slightly more sort of stronger and concentrated than what you get in YSL's Tuxedo. This also has very good longevity, at least on me. I get 12 plus hours easily. So again, this is going to be Fragrance World's Suits. The next fragrance, this is going to be a newer clone, and this is actually a clone of 1 Million Prive from Paco Rabanne. So if you've been looking for that fragrance and you don't want to pay the inflated prices of a discontinued fragrance, absolutely pick this one up. Milano Prive from Pandora Scents. This is going to be at least about 95% close, I would say, to the original fragrance. And this only goes for about $30 on Aroma Concepts. So absolutely pick this up if you're looking for 1 Million Prive. It pretty much, it gives you the exact same experience for the most part. And again, this is Milano Prive from Pandora Scents. All right, so now going to the House of Maison Alhambra. This is Maison Alhambra's Tabac. This is their take on Dior's Tabacular. And I would say this is a pretty close clone, man. This is at least about 90% close, I would say, to Tabacular. The main difference that I get is this seems to be a little bit more sort of earthier and green in the opening, and not as sweet as what Tabacular is. And I would say overall, I would say the quality of Tabacular is slightly better, but this is an extremely close clone, and pretty much once the two dry down, they're not really that distinguishable from each other, I would say. So, and also the performance on this is pretty beast mode as well. So definitely check this one out, Maison Alhambra's Tabac. The next one is also a Dior Prive collection clone. This is actually going to be from the House of Paris Corner Amir. And this is Paris Corner Amir's Frenetic Delicieuse. All right. So this is also an extremely close clone. I would say about 95% close to Dior's Fave Delicieuse. And the performance on this is also very good as well. You're going to get pretty much all day with this fragrance. This is one of the best sort of gourmand fragrances that I think that you can wear. And I mean, for the price that you can find this for, which is typically like around $30 or so now for this bottle, this is absolutely worth it. So if you're a fan of Fave Delicieuse, and obviously you can't really pick that up unless you buy it secondhand now because it's discontinued, I would say definitely go ahead and try this one out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Again, this is Frenetic Delicieuse by Paris Corner Amir. All right, so another one from the House of F.A. Paris Fragrance World. This is going to be their take on Louis Vuitton's Imagination, and this is Essence de Blanc. All right. So this is one of those fragrances that sort of took a couple of months to really sort of maturate and, you know, kind of get to where it needed to be. But at this point, I would say this is at least about 90 to 95% close to Louis Vuitton's Imagination. This is a really amazing scent. If you like, you know, fresh, citrusy, slightly sort of floral, you know, sort of scents, almost kind of tea-like as well, then definitely this is one that you'll want to pick up. And the performance on this is pretty good as well. I'm getting at least about 8 to 10 plus hours on skin when wearing this fragrance. So again, this is going to be Essence de Blanc by F.A. Paris Fragrance World. All right, so the next up is from the Woods collection, and this is pretty much a clone of most people's, I would say, favorite sort of winter and fall time fragrance. This is their clone on Parfums de Marly's Layton. This is the Woods collection Dusk. All right. So this is, I would say, about 90% close or so to Parfums de Marly's Layton. It doesn't give you as much of that sort of like menthol sort of feel in the opening, but definitely I would say in the dry down is where this one shines. It comes pretty close to the original Layton in the dry down. Which I think is most people's favorite part of that fragrance. And you can find this one normally for like around $50 or so on jomashop.com. So definitely check this one out. This is the Woods collection Dusk. All right, so the next fragrance, this is going to be from Fragrance World, and this is actually a clone of Layton Exclusive, and this is Anaqeed. All right, so Anaqeed. To my nose, I would say this is at least about 90 or so percent close to you know, Parfums de Marly's Layton Exclusive. Absolutely love the way that this smells. I mean, this is pretty much just Layton with, you know, just a sort of extra added woodiness from oud and other sort of woody notes. I would also say that this is probably not as spicy as what the original Layton scent profile is. And it's a little bit more on kind of like the smoother, sort of richer side, I would say. All right. So definitely, if you're a fan of Layton Exclusive, check this one out. This is Fragrance World's Anaqeed. All right, so the next fragrance, this is actually going to be from the house of Emperor Perfumes, and this is their take on Milano Prive's Blue Turquoise, and this is Prive Turquoise from Emperor. All right, so this fragrance is very close, I would say, to the original, especially when you spray the two on skin. I would say these two probably come to about 85 to 90% close to each other. And the one thing that I like about this fragrance is the opening of the Blue Turquoise is slightly harsh in my opinion anyway. It has a lot of black pepper that's definitely toned down, and I would say this fragrance is sweetened up a little bit more than what the Armani is. But I do really love the way that this smells. This is pretty much, it's kind of like a salty, aquatic, but yet at the same time really sort of sweet sort of scent. All right, so it does sound pretty weird, but this is in the air a really amazing smelling fragrance. Definitely check this one out. The performance on this is also very good as well. This is Prive Turquoise from Emperor Perfumes. All right, so from Paris Corner, we have their Perfumery Prive Zara line, and this is actually a clone of another Dior Prive collection fragrance. This is going to be Amber Night. So this is their take on Ambre Nuit from Dior, and this is a very close clone as well, man. This is just pretty much, it's a really sort of fizzy, really sexy sort of ambery scent. Does have some sort of floral undertones in the fragrance as well. But this is a really elegant scent. You know, I would say this is definitely going to be something that you would want to wear sort of dressed up, I would say, to maybe like a night event. But you know, at the same time, I would say you could also probably wear this one casually as well. And again, this is going to be Amber Night by Perfumery Prive Zara. All right, so the next fragrance, this is going to also be from F.A. Paris Fragrance World, and this is their take on BDK's Rude Smoking. And this is Francique 107.9, all right? So to my nose, man, this is extremely close to the original Rouge Smoking. I would say that the cherry note that you get in Rouge Smoking, it smells a little bit higher quality, at least in the opening, than what this one does. But this is, after that, I would say pretty much identical to Rouge Smoking. And this also gives you very good performance as well. I'm talking at least about 8 to 10 hours or so on skin. So if you're looking for Rouge Smoking, but maybe looking for it, you know, as like a cheaper alternative, then definitely check this one out. This is Francique 107.9. All right, so from the same line, we have Francique 63.55, and this is actually going to be the clone of Grise Charnel from BDK. And this is pretty much, it is pretty much Grise Charnel. When I smelled this side by side, I didn't really pick up on too many differences. I would say the cardamom note in the Grise Charnel is definitely, it's a little bit better blended, I would say, in that fragrance. But the main thing that you get with the Francique over the BDK is the performance. So with this one, you're looking at least about 8 hours or so, 8 plus. And I would say with the BDK, you're looking at more kind of like around the 5 hour or so mark. So this is definitely a lot better when it comes to the overall longevity. And again, this is going to be Francique 63.55. All right, so still sticking here with F.A. Paris Fragrance World, this is going to be their take on Roja's Elysium, the Parfum Cologne, and this is Divin Asylum. All right, so this so far I would say is probably the highest quality and best smelling Elysium clone really that you can find. I know obviously right now really nobody can find this one. This one came out and it pretty much has been sold out ever since it's been out, after about maybe 3 weeks or so. So I don't know when this one will come back in stock, but when it does, this is absolutely worth the high price that it was selling for, which was about $80, because this comes very close to Roja's Elysium. Again, this is Divin Asylum. All right, so next one up, this is going to be from the house of Rifaaqat, and this is Sotoor Taa. This is going to be their take on Gucci Guilty. And I mean, at least on me, Gucci Guilty, the original, never really lasted that long on me. This is pretty much Gucci Guilty on steroids. This is going to last you all day, give you really good projection as well. And the quality, I would say, doesn't suffer at all. This still smells like a really, you know, high quality sort of designer type of fragrance. So definitely, if you like Gucci Guilty, I would say check this one out. Again, this is going to be Sotoor Taa from Rifaaqat. All right, so for anyone that's a fan of Aqua di Gio Profondo, Lattafa has a really solid clone of that fragrance, and this is going to be Liam Blue Shine. So from what I could tell, man, this was a very close clone, I would say, of Profondo, at least like 90 to 95% close. And the performance on this is a whole lot better, at least on me anyway. Profondo, I was only getting, you know, a few hours, maybe like 3-4 hours or so out of Profondo. Whereas with this one, I'm getting easily about, I would say, 7 or so hours with the Liam Blue Shine. The projection, I would say, is maybe about the same, I would say, between this and the original from Giorgio Armani. But again, the overall longevity on this is a lot better, and the smell is at least about 90 to 95% close. So definitely check this one out, Lattafa Liam Blue Shine. Next fragrance up, this is going to be Hardwood from Fragrance World, and this is their take on Mahogany Woods from Bath and Body Works. I'm just going to take everybody else's word for it that has smelled these two fragrances, the hardwood and the Bath and Body Works fragrance, most people have said that this is almost identical pretty much to the original, and that, you know, this gives much better performance than what the Bath and Body Works fragrance does. This is just a really nice sort of woody, ambery, slightly sweet sort of masculine scent in my opinion. And this, I would say, on most websites anyway, only goes for about $30 or so. Whereas mahogany woods, I think at this point is probably, you know, several hundreds of dollars. So definitely check this one out if you're curious to know what that mahogany wood scent profile smells like. Again, this is going to be hardwood from Fragrance World. All right, so with Vie Ciel's Baby Cat being pretty hard to find, at least here in the United States, a lot of people, I'm sure, are probably looking for alternatives of that particular fragrance. And here I have Paris Corner's Rifaaqat. All right. So this isn't like a one-to-one clone or anything like that. This is more so kind of like a sort of inspiration or twist on the fragrance. It's definitely a lot more sort of smokier in the opening, and I would say more sort of vanilla heavy in the dry down. But this is a really amazing fragrance. It still smells a lot like Vie Ciel's Baby Cat. I would say about 80 to 85% or so. And the longevity and performance on this is very good as well. So definitely check this one out. This Paris Corner's Rifaaqat. All right, so sticking with the House of Paris Corner, this is from their Killer Oud line. This is Nights of Arabia. This is going to be their take on Byredo's Black Saffron. And I actually prefer this over Black Saffron. This has a slightly more fruitier, more kind of playful and more youthful taste to, or touch to the fragrance, I would say. It definitely has more of those sort of juniper berries and the black currant as well, especially in the opening in this fragrance. And then I would say just overall throughout the entire life of the fragrance, it has a little bit less leather than what the Byredo does. So again, I do like that about this fragrance, and overall the longevity on this is pretty good as well. All right, so definitely check this out. This is Killer Oud Nights of Arabia from Paris Corner. All right, so for anyone looking for a clone of Aqua Universalis Forte Cologne from MFK, definitely I would say check this one out. This is Barakkat Aqua Crystal from Fragrance World. This is very close to that fragrance. When I smelled the two side by side, I would say I really could barely tell a difference between the two, really. So, I mean, this is going to be a very nice, I would say, sort of spring, I would say spring and summertime sort of scent. It gives you a really sort of like drier sheet, linen sort of clean smell. With like citruses, some white florals, some woods as well. This is a very nice fragrance. And I would say the performance on this is also pretty good as well. I get about 7 hours or so out of this. This is Barakkat Aqua Crystal. All right, so the next one up, this is going to be from the house of Al Haramain, and this is a very good take on Baccarat Rouge. I would say really both the extrait as well as the EDP. And this is going to be Amber Oud Rouge from Al Haramain. All right, so pretty much, at least in my opinion, I think what this fragrance does is it gives you kind of like the best of both of those fragrances. So it gives you like the opening of the EDP, and then it starts to kind of more so dry down into more so what the extrait version of the fragrance smells like. So it's kind of like a hybrid between the two. I know they do also have the Amber Oud Ruby edition, which is more so kind of like on the extrait side. But I do like the sort of, I guess you could say blend that this one has. And the performance on this obviously is going to be pretty good as well. So if you like Baccarat Rouge overall as a scent, I would say definitely check this out. This is Al Haramain's Amber Oud Rouge. All right, next up is going to be from the house of Maison Alhambra, and this is one of the very few clones that I could say that was almost like a one-to-one clone pretty much. This is going to be Porto Neroli from Maison Alhambra. All right, and this is their take on Tom Ford's Neroli Portofino. This fragrance, man, when I smelled the two side by side, I really could not tell any sort of difference at all between these two at any point in the fragrance, whether it was the opening, the mid, or the dry down. These two pretty much smelled exactly the same. And the performance on this is also pretty good as well. You're going to get at least about 7 to 8 hours or so out of this fragrance. And I mean, pretty much if you like, you know, sort of citrusy, slightly spicy, floral types of scents, then you are going to like this. It smells heavenly in my opinion. And again, this is going to be Porto Neroli from Maison Alhambra. Next one up, I know this makes some people upset, but hey, I mean, this is my opinion. This to me is the best sort of L'Immensité clone out there from the Middle Eastern brands. And this is L'Impression Parfum, and this is by Flavia, all right? So in my opinion, I put this over the Ginlo Immortal from Maison Alhambra just simply because it's, to me, a little bit more accurate than what the Ginlo is. The Ginlo Immortal, in my opinion, is a lot more spicier and ginger heavy, in my opinion, than what this fragrance is. And it really lacks that sort of watery kind of, you know, cosmetic feel that you get from L'Immensité by Louis Vuitton. This, I think, does a much better job of giving you that sort of watery feel that Louis Vuitton's L'Immensité has. Now, in the dry down, I would say is where Ginlo Immortal probably does a little bit better. But I would say overall, I do like the sort of more kind of softer feel that this fragrance has, which is a little bit more accurate to what the original fragrance does, at least in my opinion. All right, so again, this is L'Impression Parfum by Flavia. So the next one up is going to be from the house of Armaf, and this is, in my opinion, one of the best sort of value pickups that you can get for Creed Aventus in terms of a clone. And this is going to be Armaf's Club de Nuit Intense Man Limited Edition Parfum. All right. So I smelled this side by side with a 2018 batch of Creed Aventus, and really the only difference that I was able to really pick up on was this was slightly sweeter than what that was. But I mean, overall, this is pretty much, this is, you know, Creed Aventus, but with decent performance. All right, with the original Creed Aventus, it really hasn't mattered what batch I've tried. Every single batch of Creed Aventus that I've tried has, you know, performed pretty poorly on my skin. So it makes it to where I really don't see the justification for spending that much money on an actual bottle of Aventus when fragrances like this exist. They give me 8+ hours of performance. So definitely check this one out if you're still interested in Aventus. This is Armaf's Club de Nuit Intense Man Limited Edition Parfum. All right, so next one up, this is going to be a clone of Dolce & Gabbana's The One Luminous Night. And this is Fragrance World's The One and Only Moonlit Night. All right. So I'm going to say this is going to be at least about like a 85 to 90% clone of that fragrance. Definitely, I would say in the opening, the two fragrances are slightly different. I would say the quality is better in the original fragrance than what, you know, you get in this one. But at least on my skin anyway, the original doesn't last as long as what this clone does. The original was pretty much, it was gone off of my skin in about, I would say probably 5 hours or so. Whereas with this one, I get at least about 8+ hours. And I would say in the dry down, that's when the two fragrances, they smell, you know, pretty close to each other. I would say about 90% close to each other. And I mean, this one only goes for what, about $35 or so on most websites. Whereas the original, I believe, normally that one goes for, at least right now anyway, about $200 to $300. So definitely pick this one up if you're interested in that scent profile. Again, this is The One and Only Moonlit Night by Fragrance World. All right, so I have another Tom Ford clone from Maison Alhambra on this list, and this is going to be Lovely Cherie. And this is their take on Tom Ford's Lost Cherry. All right, so when I smelled this and Lost Cherry side by side, I mean, I could tell there was a ever so slight sort of difference between the quality of the cherry note in the two fragrances. The Tom Ford, at least for maybe a few minutes or so, it did smell a little bit more sort of natural and well blended, or better blended anyway, than what the Maison Alhambra did. But I would say after, you know, pretty much that sort of opening goes away, the two fragrances are pretty much indistinguishable, other than the fact that I would say the Lovely Cherie is definitely stronger. And this one also gives you way better longevity. The Tom Ford probably lasts about 3 to 4 hours. This one is like 8+. So definitely I would say if you're a fan of that scent profile, definitely go with this one. This is Lovely Cherie by Maison Alhambra. And if you've made it this far in the video, I definitely appreciate you for watching the whole, the whole list here. This is also going to be from the house of Maison Alhambra. This is their take on Gris Dior, and this is Grise by Maison Alhambra. All right. So the Grise, I would say, although this is probably about like a 90% or so clone to Gris Dior, Gris Dior definitely, in my opinion, has a slightly better blend to it, and I would say it is a little bit more sort of complex in the opening spray pretty much. Now some people may prefer the way that the Maison Alhambra smells just overall, but in my opinion, I do think that the original Gris Dior does smell a little bit better in the opening, but pretty much after like the first probably 15 minutes or so, these two, this and the Gris Dior, are going to be almost, indistinguishable for the most part. This also doesn't give you as good performance in terms of longevity, but I mean, this is only about $30 or so for this 100 ml bottle, whereas Gris Dior is, I believe, about 300 or so for 100 ml, or 120 ml, may even be more than that at this point. So if you like that Gris Dior scent profile, if you like that sort of crisp, sort of bergamot mixed with like the oak moss that you get in the fragrance and the florals, then I would say definitely check this one out. Again, this is going to be Grise from Maison Alhambra. So that is the list, man. Again, I appreciate you all if you all have made it through the whole video. I know there was a lot of fragrances on this list. But those are my favorite pickups for the year of 2023 when it comes to clone fragrances. So let me know what you all thought about this list. Have you all smelled most of these fragrances? Have you smelled some of them? Have you not smelled any of these fragrances on this list? Definitely let me know in the comments. And again, if you're brand new to the channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. And again, that's Jamar from Vegas Scents. I'll see you on the next video.